Lower voice. On the morning after the red flash, the first thing people notice is the silence. No traffic on Interstate 95, no airplanes above Chicago, no anchors on CNN arguing over maps. The phones still glow for a few hours, then the towers lose power, and every screen becomes a mirror. This file is a reconstruction of one possible American collapse after a Russian nuclear strike. It uses public Cold War planning, FEMA guidance, known city infrastructure, and real blast data from Hiroshima, Nagasaki, Nevada, Semipalatinsk, Chernobyl, and Fukushima. The details are fictional, the physics are not. Pause. At 8:17 a.m. Eastern Time, a flash hits the sky east of Washington, D.C. People who see it through office windows do not hear the heat comes next. At several miles from the center, curtains burn, car paint blisters, and exposed skin can take fatal burns before the sound reaches the street. In 1945, the bomb over Hiroshima had a yield of about 15 kilotons. Modern strategic warheads can be 20 times stronger, sometimes far more. The United States and Russia still hold thousands of nuclear warheads between them. New START, the treaty signed in 2010, limited deployed strategic warheads to 1,550 each. That limit did not erase the older stockpiles, the delivery systems, or the cities already printed inside targeting plans. Washington is the national symbol, so most people imagine the White House disappearing in a single fireball. Real targeting would be uglier. Command centers, naval bases, airfields, and power infrastructure matter more than monuments. Norfolk, Colorado Springs, Minot, Offutt, Kings Bay, Bangor, and Cheyenne Mountain would sit on the same grim map. It would look less like a movie poster and more like an electrical diagram being torn apart. The first hour belongs to heat, glass, and panic. In Manhattan, office towers turn into knife factories as windows break across whole blocks. In the suburbs around D.C., families run into basements without knowing whether the basement is below the fallout path. Around Los Angeles, clogged freeways trap people in metal boxes with empty fuel gauges and emergency alerts that arrive too late or repeat the same sentence until the network dies. Tense. The second hour belongs to wind. Fallout is dust made from soil, building material, and bomb residue dragged upward and dropped back. It follows weather. A survivable town can become deadly because the wind turns. A destroyed city can leave a narrow corridor where a few people live because the plume moved away. In 1954, the Castle Bravo test at Bikini Atoll spread fallout far beyond the predicted zone. The Japanese fishing boat Daigo Fukuryu Maru was about 85 miles away. Its crew still suffered radiation sickness. They knew enough to be afraid, then the real cloud went farther. By noon on day one, the old rules of American life stop working. A debit card cannot buy water if the payment network is down. A police department cannot answer calls when officers are looking for their own children. A hospital cannot run ventilators if diesel deliveries stop. The Federal Reserve can announce emergency measures, but nobody in a grocery store line can spend a statement. Most deaths in the first week would not come from a single dramatic blast. They would come from fire, trauma, thirst, infection, exposure, and decisions made with bad information. People would drink from pools. They would sleep near ash. They would open doors too early because the basement felt unbearable. The old FEMA rule was simple. Get inside, and stay tuned. After a ground burst, the radiation level from fallout can drop sharply with time, roughly by the 7-10 rule. After 7 hours, the dose rate is about 1/10 of the first hour level. After 49 hours, about 1/100th. That rule would save lives if people knew it and trusted it. Many would not. Pause. The first new currency would be sealed water. A 1-gallon jug becomes more useful than a $100 bill. Iodine tablets become rumors. Flashlights become bargaining chips. Gasoline becomes power, heat, movement, and violence in liquid form. The top layer is smoke and broken radio towers. The middle layer is apartment buildings with locked stairwells and dead elevators. The bottom layer is basements, parking garages, subway tunnels, service corridors, and storm drains full of people listening for footsteps. That sounds like shelter until you remember the pumps. The system relies on constant pumping to keep water out. During Hurricane Sandy in 2012, seawater flooded tunnels and caused billions of dollars in damage. After a nuclear exchange, with crews dead, power unstable, and parts unavailable, the underground would flood, stink, and turn into a maze of short-term refuge and long-term disease. Chicago would freeze differently. In winter, the Loop could become a city of sealed rooms around old radiators if heat still runs anywhere. People would strip office furniture for fuel. Lake Michigan would be close and still dangerous because water and debris. A city that once solved distance with trains and trucks would shrink to walking radius. Los Angeles would face the fire problem first. The Santa Ana winds have driven some of California's worst fires, including the 2018 Woolsey fire and the 2025 Palisades fire season. Add blast damage, ruptured gas lines, dry brush, and a crippled fire service, and whole neighborhoods become fuel. People who survive the first flash might die because the roads out are blocked by the cars of people who made the same choice 10 minutes earlier. Outside the cities, survival would look less cinematic and more bureaucratic. Counties would try to set up distribution points. National Guard units would secure. Some would wait for federal orders that never arrive. Some commanders would decide that holding food depots matters more than saving stranded neighborhoods. The United States studied continuity of government for decades. Mount Weather in Virginia, Raven Rock in Pennsylvania. These places were built for a federal government that expected to survive decapitation. The question after a large exchange is whether a government can still govern when roads are cut, satellites are damaged, and most citizens cannot hear its voice. By week 2, the country becomes a patchwork. Parts of rural Iowa might organize around grain elevators, wells, churches, and county sheriffs. Parts of Arizona might organize around water tanks and solar panels. Parts of Pennsylvania might organize around old mines, rail lines, and small hospitals. The map people care about now shows wells, bridges, pharmacies, and diesel, lower voice. The first winter decides who planned and who guessed. Food is the slow killer. The United States produces huge quantities of corn, soybeans, wheat, beef, poultry, and dairy, but production is not the same as meals. Modern food depends on fertilizer, fuel, refrigeration, trucking, packaging, credit, and labor. In 2022, the baby formula shortage showed how fragile a narrow supply chain can become without any bombs. After a nuclear strike, the problem expands from shelves to farms. A farm can have land and still fail. Diesel runs tractors, electricity runs pumps, parts come from factories. Fertilizer. Veterinary medicine keeps animals alive. Seeds are stored, shipped, financed, and planted on schedules. A village of survivors standing in a cornfield does not automatically become a food system. The black market appears before the first official ration card. Antibiotics move through. Ammunition moves through ex-military networks. Maps of safe wells are copied by hand. A person with a working ham radio becomes more valuable than a person with a suitcase of cash. Old American symbols would survive in strange ways. Flags would hang over checkpoints because people still want authority to look familiar. School gyms would become clinics. Shopping malls would become indoor settlements because they already have wide halls, loading bays, security shutters, and roof access. A dead mall outside Columbus or Phoenix might become a town faster than a luxury apartment tower. After 1 year, the children change the story. A 6-year-old in 2026 becomes 7 in a world where birthdays are counted by ration seasons. He knows the word. He knows airports as fenced ruins. He thinks supermarkets were buildings where adults fought over cans. Some communities would become disciplined. They would boil water, bury waste downhill from wells, rotate guards, and keep written ledgers. Others would collapse into small tyrannies. The person controlling the generator controls the lights. The person controlling the bridge controls trade. This is where the post-war United States stops looking like a country and starts looking like an archipelago of armed towns. One survivor settlement might form around the Hoover Dam if the structure and transmission systems remain usable. Another might form near the Great Lakes because fresh water is the rarest strategic asset. Another might grow around old military depots in the Midwest. Every place with water, tools, and a defensible perimeter would attract people, then attract raiders, then attract rules. Europe would tell a different version of the same collapse. London has the underground and old civil defense history. Paris has Berlin has Cold War memory built into concrete. But America gives the red flash its cruelest contrast, because the country spent 70 years selling the future in chrome, suburbs, highways, and smiling advertisements. Tense, 30 years later, the ruins would be full of religion. The ruins would be full of religion built from memory. People would keep scraps of the old world and argue over what they mean. A road sign for Washington, a melted badge from a police station, a lunchbox with a cartoon astronaut, a blue and yellow shelter door with the number 86 painted on it. Children would ask why the adults whisper before opening it. The door would matter because it promises order. It says someone counted beds. Someone believed a future person might need a handle to pull. Inside, there might be nothing heroic. Mold on the walls, empty bunks, and a terminal with green letters frozen on a date. November 9th, 2031. The screen says the inventory failed. Water filters are below minimum, and the surface hatch must not open without command authorization. The children would not know who command was. They would know the hatch opens. Pause. The biggest lie about nuclear war. The blast is an event. The collapse keeps working. It works through kidneys without clean water, through lungs full of ash, through insulin that warms in a dead refrigerator, through bridges nobody can inspect, through rumors that move faster than rescue. A red flash over America would not create a clean wasteland for adventure. It would create unfinished business everywhere, unburied dead in stairwells, hospitals running on bicycle-powered lights, farmers guarding seed rooms, children learning which rain to fear, old men drawing pre-war maps for roads that no longer exist. The survivors would build because humans build. They would lie, trade, pray, steal, forgive, and start over in ugly places. Some would ban outsiders. Some would send scouts along old highways with Geiger counters tied to broom handles. Some would paint radiation symbols on school buses and use them as caravans, and somewhere near the ruins of a capital, a child would stand in front of a cracked museum case and see a small plaque that says 1776. He would ask what happened that year. The adult beside him would have two choices. Tell him it was the year a country began, or tell him it was the year people believed they could begin again. Lower voice. For more sealed reports from the Hidden Archive, subscribe to the channel. And if this file felt too close to tomorrow, leave a like, because the next one opens a door that was supposed to stay buried.